The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. Part 1. Seriously, fish suck. Chapter 1. I hated fish. Standing in the burned-out field, surrounded by charred stalks of grain and smoldering ash, I could safely say this single fact. I hated the taste of fish. The pungent flavor, the texture of the flesh, which shreds like something rotten, the sharp jab of the needle bones, which always seem to be hiding in the meat no matter how hard you search. Yep, fish. Disgusting. That was, at the moment, the sum total of what I could remember about myself. No name, no background, just a latent hatred of fish. Damn. What had driven that point into my brain so forcefully? Had a flounder killed my parents or something? I turned around, hand to my head, trying to make sense of the black void that had consumed my entire self-identity. I was in a field. Stalks of something around me. Plants a few inches tall. My utter inability to distinguish the variety indicated I probably wasn't a farmer. So why was I in a field? And a partially burned one at that. The burn marks made a circle, maybe 10 feet in diameter, with me in the center. Only just nearest me, the plants hadn't been burned. My feet stood on green stalks, smashed down into the soil. I glanced behind me and found that the non-burned portion made a distinctive human shape. My shape. A person's stencil. So I was fireproof, maybe? That would be nice. I appeared to be male, of average height and build, maybe a tad muscular. Or perhaps I was flattering myself. I wore a pair of sturdy lacing boots that were quite good at stomping down crops. My primary clothing was a long overshirt, a brown tunic on top of that, and a vibrant cloak over that. So I probably wasn't going to get cold anytime soon. Under the tunic, blue jeans? Yeah, blue jeans. With a tunic and cloak? That was odd. Oh, hell. Was I a cosplayer? And why could I remember that word perfectly, but not my own name? Right. So maybe I'd gone out into a field to take pictures for the local Renaissance fair or whatever. I'd brought along pyrotechnics to make for a cooler shot of my character, and I'd accidentally blown myself up. That seemed plausible enough. So where was my camera? My phone? My, car keys? My pockets turned out to be empty. I hesitantly stepped away from the me stencil, my feet crunching on crispy charred stalks of once plants. That was an uncomfortably round circle my explosion had created. Like it was perfectly shaped. And some of the stalks were still smoldering. The air smelled of smoke and sulfur. I did a quick search around the burned-out circle, and I didn't find anything of note. Dirt, rocks, plants. No pile of belongings. I was beginning to doubt my photo shoot theory. Maybe I was just a weirdo who liked to dress in old-timey clothing and, go explode in fields? You know, as one does. In the distance, I saw a dirt road leading to a group of old-timey buildings with thatched roofs. They were far enough away that I couldn't tell much else about them. I shook my head and let out a lengthy sigh. I had to... Wait, what was that on the ground? I rushed over and plucked a fluttering piece of paper from between two stones. How had I missed this in my search? The edge was burned and it only had a few lines of text on it. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England, 4th edition, by Cecil G. Bagsworth III. I read the words over 3 times, then looked into the distance at those old-timey buildings again. The truth began to settle on me. I wasn't a cosplayer. I was visiting some kind of theme park. Was that more or less nerdy? Now that I knew what to look for, I spotted another loose piece of paper fluttering at the edge of the field, near some woods. Maybe it would have a map on it, telling me how to get out of this place, or at least list where I could find a first aid station. I'd obviously hit my head or something. This page was burned worse than the other one. 2 chunks of the text were legible, one on the front side, one on the back. Can be traumatic, though don't worry. As part of your package purchase, a suitable location will be chosen for you to recuperate upon arrival. In addition, it is suggested that you use the handy notation guide at the back of the book, where you can write pertinent information about your life. The transfer process can leave the mind muddied, but often a few facts about one's life can jog loose other details. Don't stress the initial disorientation. It is a common side effect, and all you need to do is... Well, that seemed an awful place to cut off. I flipped the page over. Seemed that the offerings of more expensive packages sold by so-called premium companies might be more useful in helping you recuperate. Servants, a luxury manor, and medical staff. But the frugal wizard, TM, doesn't need to be so extravagant. Indeed, such services might make things too easy. See the study done by Bagsworth et al., page 87. Though we can accommodate such requests as well, don't fear if you can't afford them. The frugal wizard, TM, is capable and confident on their own and does not need coddling. With this handbook, you can navigate easily. Just read on to learn all the tips and secrets you will need for... All right, so maybe I'd bought some kind of travel package? One that was really hard on the body for some reason? I put a hand to my head and a thought fluttered at the edge of my consciousness. I'd chosen this, hadn't I? I'd chosen to... Do what? For a moment, I seemed so close to answering that. Then it was gone. Regardless, it didn't look like I'd arrived at a suitable location to recuperate. I'd woken up in the middle of a field. A burning field. The review almost wrote itself. An ideal experience if you happen to be a pyromaniac cow. 1 star. Voices in the distance. My body moved before I registered the sounds, and in seconds I'd slipped into the forest and put my back to a tree. I'd reached to my side by reflex for... Hell, was I reaching for a gun? I was wearing nothing of the sort, but I found myself uncomfortable by how quickly and silently I dodged for cover. It didn't necessarily mean anything nefarious, though. I mean, maybe I was just a champion player of hide-and-seek. Or, paintball hide-and-seek. I'd just been thinking about finding help, so I should have been happy to be noticed. But something made me stick there, behind that tree, my breathing slow and easy, deliberate. Whoever I was, I had experience at this sort of thing. I was close enough to hear when the people arrived. "Was it Elston?" a timid man's voice said, speaking perfect modern English, albeit with an accent I couldn't quite place. It sounded vaguely European. "Lanswaite?" "This is no act of white," a stronger male voice said. "None that I've seen, least." "Logness Flames, maybe?" a woman's voice said. "Look at the outline of that figure, and there were those incantations scattered about." "It looks like someone was burned alive," the first voice said. "Fires from heaven consuming him. That clap of thunder on a bright sunny day." The deeper voice grunted. I stayed in place and resisted the urge to peek. "Not yet," my instincts whispered. "Call everyone together," the firm voice eventually said. "We'll put out sacrifices tonight as if from a harvest. And Hild, that scop, did she leave yet?" "Earlier today, I think," the woman said. "Send a boy to chase her down and beg her return. We may need a binding. Or worse, a loosening." "She's going to like that," the woman said. Another grunt, then footsteps on the soil retreating. I finally peeked around the side of the tree and picked out the 3 people walking back toward the distant buildings. 2 men and a woman in archaic clothing. Tunics and loose, baggy trousers on the men. Weren't they supposed to wear hose under those? I could swear I'd seen that in a museum or something. Both were dyed in faded earth tones, though the taller of the two men had a yellow-orange cloak of a color so vibrant I had trouble believing it was period authentic. The woman had on a sleeveless white-brown dress over a darker one of a slightly longer fit. Other than the orange cloak, they looked the part of old-school peasants. At least better than I did with my jeans. So another point in favor of this being a theme park? I mean, they'd been speaking English, after all. Yet, wouldn't workers in a theme park speak with some kind of old-timey British affectation? These and thous and my lords and the like? Plus, why would they keep up the act when nobody was around? I needed more information. And as I peeked after the retreating figures, I noted some others gathering and sifting through the field, picking up something. Scraps of paper. From the book. It seemed that most of the pages had blown that direction. All right. Mission accepted. I needed those pages.